Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling something, well, really fascinating. It's called pre-reflection theory.
Hmm.
And the core idea might just change how you think about, well, your own thoughts. Our mission is to break this down, make it easy to follow, and see what it tells us about how our minds work.
Yeah, it's quite a mind bender when you first encounter it.
Right. So, let's dive in. The basic idea, this pre-reflection theory, it suggests that maybe before we consciously think something or make a decision,
Uh-huh.
we sort of unconsciously get a glimpse, like a reflection of what's coming before we actually process it, almost like getting a preview.
Exactly. And what's really fascinating, I think, is that it flips the timeline we usually assume.
How so?
Well, we tend to think, okay, I had a thought now. But this theory suggests the thought might actually emerge, a tiny fraction of a second earlier.
Earlier.
Yeah, sending out these, let's call them reflection signals
Hmm.
that we then perceive consciously. So the brain's job becomes less about creating the thought from scratch
Hmm.
and maybe more about just confirming or organizing those signals that came slightly before. It really reframes that whole sequence.
That is a huge reframe. Okay, to make this super clear, the source we looked at used a really helpful analogy.
The mirror one.
Yeah. Imagine looking into a mirror, but instead of your reflection now, it shows you the future of your thought, just moments before you actually think it.
It's a powerful image, like seeing a little flash of your own intention right before it clicks into place in your mind.
Exactly. And that leads to a really relatable point, doesn't it?
It does. It makes you ask yourself, have you ever had that feeling? You just know the answer, but you haven't quite spoken it yet.
Oh, definitely. Or like you're about to think of something specific.
Right, before it becomes totally clear. That tip of the tongue feeling, maybe?
Yeah, that sensation.
Well, according to this theory, those familiar feelings, those little pre-echoes, they can actually be the result of this pre-reflection process.
That makes so much sense when you put it like that. Okay, so if this is potentially happening, how on earth could we test something like this? It seems so internal.
Right, it's tricky. But hypothetically,
Hmm.
you could use things like timed brain signal measurements, EEG, for instance.
Okay, measuring brain waves.
Precisely. Researchers would need to look for very specific, subtle electrical signals in the brain that happen before someone is consciously aware they're, say, about to push a button or think a specific thought in an experiment.
So you're looking for the signal before the reported thought.
Exactly. If you could consistently find those predictive signals, those precognitive markers, well, that would lend some serious weight to the theory. It wouldn't be absolute proof, maybe, but strong evidence.
Okay. So let's connect this to the bigger picture then.
Mhm.
If this holds water, what are the implications? Because the idea that our thoughts aren't entirely ours,
Yeah.
or that they arrive a bit late, so to speak, that's quite profound.
It really is. It challenges our standard idea of agency, doesn't it? If thoughts aren't 100% generated by us in the moment we perceive them, but maybe something we, well, receive slightly delayed.
It changes how you think about free will, even creativity.
Absolutely. It suggests maybe we're more like receivers or channels sometimes, rather than the sole originators. But, that doesn't have to be disempowering.
Oh, how so?
Well, think about creative fields. Artists, musicians, writers. Maybe this pre-reflection is related to inspiration. Could they be tapping into a deeper, sort of pre-conscious stream?
Like seeing the art before consciously creating it.
Perhaps. It opens up possibilities for understanding where deep insights come from. It's not just philosophical.
So it could even have practical aspects. Could we, I don't know, get better at noticing these pre-reflections?
That's the really exciting potential extension of the idea. Could we actually train ourselves to be more sensitive to them?
Train our intuition almost.
Sort of, yeah. If you could learn to tune into those subtle pre-echoes more deliberately, maybe it gives you an edge in problem solving, decision making, feeling the right path before you can fully articulate why.
Hmm. That's fascinating. So, wrapping this up for you listening, this pre-reflection theory, it's a challenge to how we normally think about our own minds.
It really invites you to observe your own thought process differently.
Yeah. The idea that thoughts might have these faint previews, these pre-echoes, if that's true, even partly, what could happen if we learn to pay more attention? Could tuning into them open up new aspects of our intuition? Could it change how we see consciousness itself?
Definitely something to mull over.
It really is something to ponder long after this deep dive ends.